Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News with a Clayton Echard paternity update that is going to knock you off your feet. I'm not kidding. Get a crash pad out. You're about to go. I mean, this is wild. These new court documents that were released yesterday are absolutely insane. Clayton's lawyers absolutely dunk on top of Jane Doe. Mercy rule this, blow the whistle, match over. This is just like a professional athlete playing a child here. It's just not even fair at this point what's going on. I'm going to share critical new information, critical new exhibits nobody's seen before, and some of the wordplay is absolute. I mean, just bravo. Just trust me when I say this isn't hyperbole. You're going to want to stick around. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals for stand-up show updates. I got a lot coming up in Nashville, Phoenix, all over the place, Alabama, Atlanta, so go over there. And if you go to my link tree in my bio of my Instagram, you can sign up for the newsletter, which lets you know when I'm going to be at different places. And also, please support Bachelor Rush Hour. If you enjoy what we're doing here, the best way to keep elevating this story, which protects us and protects our journalistic integrity, is to subscribe to the podcast. That way it keeps rising in the ranks. It's now a top 200 podcast in society and culture, daily morning and afternoon episodes. I will have new information this afternoon that I have not quite finished redacting, but it'll be there on the podcast. All right, well, I'd be dancing too if I were Clayton. He's got happy feet. I just imagine his sperm look like this. They're like, oh, come on, we're going for it. It's like, you're in the trachea. You're not really. All right, so either way, I'm going to share completely unhinged things right here. We've got an email sent from Jane Doe, including this wild Echard twins coming February 2024. Breaking news, not anymore. I've got that in this crazy email here. Not to mention, I've got exhibits that were emails to Amazon. I guess Clayton's lawyers are trying to catch Jane Doe in possibly purchasing a baby bump, a prosthetic belly. I think that's what that's all about. Plus, we have emails that show clear attempts by Jane Doe to cancel Clayton. I'm going to share the emails that she sent to a company that Clayton was going to do a mental health speech at. Can you believe this? She got him canceled. And boy, that's all you need for defamation, to show how you were canceled. And all Clayton needs to do is prove she was never pregnant. And then, oh boy, and then it is a clear path to him receiving a little bit of that extra money that it's cost him so much money. He said earlier 60 to 70 grand, but when you factor in what he probably owes these attorneys, yeah, I mean, by all means, they're doing the Lord's work here. All right, let's jump right into it. And again, stick around. There's a lot here. I'm going to skip through some of it. It's 64 pages. I'll skip through some of it, but I'll share the highlights. Response objection to petitioner's motion for confidentiality and preliminary protective order. So Jane Doe is trying to get confidentiality in her deposition. She's saying, I'll do the deposition, but I don't want the public to see. And Clayton's like, you didn't have a problem with that when you leaked this stuff to the news, did you? Well, either way, here's his response from his lawyers. It is a master's class in trying to smoke out the other side. Boy, wild. Respondent Clayton Echard, by and through undersigned counsel, hereby provides his response and objects to petitioner's unverified motion for confidentiality and preliminary protective order. As a threshold matter, petitioner's requested relief under Rule 53 constitutes an impermissible prior restraint of protected speech. Beyond that, it also represents tremendous overreach in the use of Rule 53 to diminish respondent's rights as a litigant. Apparently, petitioner feels she is entitled to what is essentially a backdoor motion to seal after this court already denied her attempt. See minute entry dated October 19th. Why? Because after she contacted tabloids and the media to disparage respondent, she publicly initiated the publicity she initiated backfired when it was exposed that she had engaged in previous pregnancy fabrications and that her medical evidence was lacking in science. The entire underpinning of her petition to establish paternity was predicated upon a con, scam, and fraud upon this court. Now, most of you guys understand how interesting this is. Some people go, I don't get it. Why is this so interesting? Well, that's like jumping in on season 6 of Breaking Bad and being like, I don't get it. They're just blowing up campers. And it's like, no, you got to know the whole story. Either way, let's continue. Petitioner Janie Doe has furthered her noxious agenda by failing to appear at a properly noticed deposition. This occurred notwithstanding 3 different attorneys in a matter of weeks having discussed the deposition and ongoing discovery issues. Meanwhile, she continues, underlined, to advance meritless lawsuits against the media. That's me. I'm in it. She's advancing meritless lawsuits. I have to defend myself on February 8th in LA Superior Court. I'm media. Meritless lawsuits against the media for questioning the narrative she shared with the Sun while simultaneously contacting the media. Now, we love all these underlines. They're really loving the underline. Now, petitioner has the chutzpah to flout court rules and suggest this court ignore the First Amendment, while in the same breath arguing that she is entitled to protection by the court. To the extent applicable, respondent incorporates his pending filings as and for his response objection. Respondent states as follows. Currently pending before the court are respondent's motion for leave to amend respondent's response to petition to establish. Okay, so there's a lot of the legalese here, and they share the expedited motion to extend dismissal. Of course, she's trying to get this case dismissed. Petitioner Jane Doe, expedited motion to quash deposition. So we're still waiting from the judge to be like, are we quashing this thing or not? Of course, you would think the judge, in good faith, would want to hear more information to make a judgment. I think she would want this deposition to go forward. And by the way, Jane Doe's side has filed motions to depose Clayton. So why would they want to quash their deposition but depose Clayton? You can't have one versus the other, right? The court must begin with the presumption that prior restraint on protected speech is dubious and subject to the highest scrutiny. Petitioner does not address or even attempt to explain why prohibiting respondent from speaking about the issues she brought in this action would withstand constitutional scrutiny. This is not the least restrictive means to accomplish the end stated, nor do the concerns petitioner express outweigh the substantial interests of respondent's freedom of expression, freedom of the press, the public's interest in open legal proceedings. Now, you might wonder why the public should have interest in this. And it's like, well, look, I mean, this is just the collateral damage to her publicly sharing lies and fraud as alleged in these documents. Shouldn't Clayton have the right for the public to know the truth here as a public figure after being damaged so much during the last few months? Which, again, you'll see in the exhibits, because she was privately emailing people trying to cancel him, trying to use that as leverage to get him to contact her. Real psychotic stuff, if you ask me. Petitioner Janie Doe demand would trigger a woefully unnecessary and inappropriate procedure overtly designed to thwart disclosure. Yes, she's all about thwarting disclosure. I mean, she's been trying to thwart disclosure since the day I covered this. Oh, you don't want to cover that case. It's private. I mean, the amount of mental gymnastics I had to do trying to read through her emails. I mean, honestly, I should be suing her for the emotional damages done by her lies and her threats. Recall, she has entirely failed to comply with Rule 49, 62, and 57. Petitioner has not shown good cause for deviating from the ordinary process for petitioning the court for confidentiality or sealing documents when the court deemed it appropriate. Here, she seeks to hide behind Rule 57 as a justification for willfully failing to attend a properly noticed deposition and for continuing to fail to provide any disclosure going on 8 months. Meanwhile, initiating contact with the media, publishing articles, and otherwise soliciting media attention. All right, here's where it gets crazy. The gloves are coming off. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This is when the bad cop comes into the interrogation, just, ready to rip shit up. The fact that discovery may annoy or embarrass petitioner does not mean that sealing and confidentiality are appropriate remedies. Petitioner not only brought this action in bad faith, but also she shared it with the media and even wrote a de facto op-ed furthering her fictitious narrative in painting herself as a victim. Absent from petitioner's motion is that petitioner filed the underlying action. Petitioner threatened repeatedly to bring her alleged pregnancy to the media. Petitioner reached out directly to the media with her unsupported allegations. The Sun, People Magazine, TMZ, Reddit, Medium, Dave Neal. And petitioner published information, including her alleged media records about the case online. Petitioner now continues to contact the media to advance her fictitious narrative while simultaneously asking this court for special accommodations for confidentiality. This after the court already denied her motion to seal. Parenthetically, petitioner's efforts to seal the other case with nearly identical claims of being pregnant with twins and with similarly doctored sonograms was also denied seal protection. Her conduct and legal positions simply do not align. Petitioner is not special. Respondent does not doubt the petitioner will be annoyed or embarrassed by examination by oral deposition. But if that were the legal standard to oppose a deposition, the exception would swallow the rule. Oh my gosh. The use of words here. I'm having a legal erection right now. Are you kidding me with these words? I'm going to read that one more time. You understand. Clayton alleges they've only had oral sex. And this is the word choice here. I mean, they are really trying to smoke her out of her hole. I mean, what's her option? She's backed into a corner. Respondent does not doubt that petitioner will be annoyed or embarrassed by examination by oral deposition. But if that were the legal standard to oppose a deposition, the exception would swallow the rule. Chef's kiss. Every litigant is uncomfortable being examined under oath. That is inherent to the adversarial system that petitioner triggered with her filing. It is only when those burdens are undue or the discovery process is abused that those concerns become sufficient grounds to prohibit discovery mechanisms. All litigants are entitled to use discovery for legitimate purposes, which include gathering information, testing the deponent's knowledge and truthfulness, exploring patterns of past behavior, including other fictitious pregnancies, appearance under oath in court with a fake pregnant stomach, collateral proceedings, etc., and all other acts relevant for impeachment in order to show that the underlying cause was malignantly filed. Moreover, petitioner cannot now evade deposition after she invoked Rule 2. The fact that petitioner finds participating in the litigation embarrassing is no different from the experience of anyone else, except that in this case, she brought the petition. She made sensational allegations. She threatened to, and did, bring media attention to the case in an attempt to control respondent's behavior and, disturbingly, to get him to sign a dating contract and coerce him to explore intimacy. We'll look at that in Exhibit 2. Not only is a respondent entitled to the information in discovery necessary to defend against her claims, but he also has a fundamental constitutional right to discuss the nature of those claims. Petitioner is requesting an order that would prohibit respondent from defending his character in public view, despite the fact that she made his character a matter of public interest and that she self-identifies as a public figure. The toothpaste cannot be put back in the tube. Moreover, that the public is interested in the case only adds weight to maintaining transparency, not limiting it, even if petitioner now finds that interest uncomfortable after she invited it. All of that to say, you started it. Respondent Clayton Echard, TikTok star, has the right to depose petitioner pursuant to Rule 57. This is not in dispute. Petitioner has provided zero Rule 49 disclosure to date and now files this unverified motion alleging for the first time that she had a miscarriage. Petitioner appeared on video during trial on October 24th wearing what appeared to be a moon bump, a device used to appear pregnant, and asked the court if she could show respondent her pregnant stomach. When judge promptly denied, the motion for protective order was filed after petitioner was copied with a spoliation notice to Amazon.com to preserve records confirming the purchase of said moon bump and to affirm that babies come from intercourse, not Amazon.com. Breaking news. Hold on. We have breaking news here. This is wild. You learn something new every day. Hold on, folks. Breaking news. Babies come from intercourse and not Amazon.com. I mean, listen, I bet you Jeff Bezos would try to sell babies if he was allowed to. So I'm going to share with you the evidence, Exhibit 3, where they actually show an email to the legal team at Amazon to basically say, hello, can we find out if she purchased this baby bump? Hey, see if Chase J. Jones purchased it too while you're at it. November 2nd, 2023, petitioner testified that she was 100% and 24 weeks pregnant by respondent and that she was due on Valentine's Day, the old Cupid's bump. Petitioner specifically testified that she was having a high-risk pregnancy due to her alleged epilepsy. And also it's high risk, I believe, because it's twins. And that she was being seen by Dr. McCool and Dr. Higley. To date, petitioner has provided no verifiable information that supports these allegations other than doctored sonograms, ostensibly from Etsy, a borrowed YouTube video of an actual sonogram and positive HCG tests. Yeah, start up that Etsy account. You know, you can buy some extra blush for your glowing face and this prosthetic belly and maybe some compression socks. I don't know. What else can you put in there? Petitioner Janie Doe then filed a motion to dismiss, claiming for the first time that she was no longer pregnant, but still refused to provide any information whatsoever about what happened to the alleged twin fetuses. Now, for the first time, she alleges that she miscarried. That is a salient fact in dispute because respondent does not believe that petitioner was ever pregnant, and certainly not by him, and they did not have intercourse. Moreover, if petitioner did miscarry that late into her pregnancy, a fetal death certificate would be produced and there would be corroborating medical records. Respondent has repeatedly asked for this death certificate and even provided the vital records request form to petitioner. They're basically doing all the work for her, you know? Due to petitioner's historic refusal to provide any medically verifiable information to support her allegations and her history of arts and crafts medical evidence, written discovery is not sufficient. She does not get to dictate which discovery rules apply to her. A deposition is the most efficient and least burdensome way to ascertain the validity of petitioner's claims under oath. Her fear of inculpating herself criminally, perjury, filing false police reports, etc., is the antithesis of good cause. Limiting respondent to the alternative means of discovery, referenced on page 6 of petitioner's motion, would incapacitate respondent's ability to obtain relevant and necessary evidence. Ironically, petitioner also requested respondent's deposition immediately upon hiring her current attorney before taking any other action to address the supposedly burdensome discovery. Petitioner first retaliated by rescheduling respondent's deposition. Petitioner cannot have her cake and eat it too. Respondent is entitled to depose petitioner about all relevant matters, including similar false pregnancy allegations made against past putative fathers and inconsistent statements admissible for impeachment purposes. Not only do those allegations speak to her credibility, but they also establish an overt and escalating pattern of fraudulent behavior and abuse of legal process. Speaking of a pattern of abuse, we have information coming from a news source that speaks to longer patterns of possible, situations similar to this. We'll have more information on that. Hopefully on this afternoon's Bachelor Rush Hour. We're still gathering that info. But boy, pattern really helps build a full picture here, which is why she didn't want anyone to share her previous stories, because it's easier to lie when people don't know the background. Respondent cannot properly bring his counterclaims of non-paternity sanctions and attorney's fees without deposing petitioner and receiving definitive statements under oath about her past actions. The scope of inquiry absolutely includes relevant questions about past relationships that resulted in similar threats and legal actions. Emails and text messages she sent to other men with nearly identical verbiage, prior doctored evidence, factually similar matters about which petitioner authored editorials, TEDx Talks, podcasts, petitioner's medical and associated health conditions. After discovery, nothing prevents petitioner from seeking confidentiality and other appropriate protective orders as to limited portions of the deposition if the court were to then determine they exceeded legal scope. However, preventing those questions from being asked in the first place would improperly limit respondent's ability to defend himself and stymie this court's ability to make findings pursuant to the law. And what that means is, let's ask the questions now, and then the judge can decide later if it's admissible. In addition to the misuse of court procedure, there are significant First Amendment concerns here. Prior restraint against relevant discovery is an extraordinary remedy that is not remotely warranted in this matter. Petitioner has not shown good cause to override respondent's legal rights, the public's interest in transparent proceedings, and this court's legal and equitable duties. Petitioner's prospective concerns after willfully failing to comply with court rules for 8 months are nothing more than an opaque attempt to thwart this court's ability to make findings. Petitioner cannot simply seek generalized and speculative relief as a means to justify a blanket restriction prior to providing any discovery participation in a deposition. Moreover, her objections are not valid grounds for a willful failure to appear for a validly noticed deposition. I think they're making their case. It is premature to designate as confidential documents, recordings, or records that do not exist and have not yet been produced. To the extent a response to this assertion is warranted, there is nothing to be designated confidential. No deposition has occurred. Petitioner has not provided any Rule 49 disclosure, and there are no exhibits or sensitive documents in the court records that could be designated confidential, even if petitioner has shown good cause. Simply put, petitioner's request is impossibly premature, and the discovery being sought is relevant, including the HIPAA releases referenced in her motion. Further, in contrary to petitioner's assertions, discovery cannot be conducted during trial. Respondent is entitled to his reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred responding to this motion. After properly noticing petitioner of his intent to depose her and agreeing to a date and time, petitioner willfully failed to appear. Petitioner's unreasonableness in this matter only persists as she continues to seek out new ways to evade the disclosure and discovery obligations for the action she filed. Petitioner has a history of being creative in coming up with ways to avoid legal accountability. She previously made abhorrent allegations in prior proceedings involving similar false twin pregnancy allegations against an officer of the court to evade court appearances. Fortunately, foiled by Judge Bacchus, whose judicial assistant intercepted petitioner's ex parte effort, which was subsequently addressed in proceedings. What they're saying is Jane Doe claimed that the lawyer she was facing was part of a credible rape conspiracy. Absolutely wild stuff, and she emailed that to the judge. Respondent requests this court permit him to file a China doll affidavit. Wherefore, respondent respectfully requests that the court enter the following order. Deny Jane's motion for confidentiality and preliminary protective order. Award respondent his reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred due to petitioner's unreasonableness pursuant for such other and further relief as this court deems just and proper under these circumstances. There it is, and then Clayton signs it right there. That's it. Now we have the exhibits. Oh man, should we make a second video or do this all at once? Let's just keep going. Exhibit 1, Lexi, you filed to withdraw with Jane's consent. No, we don't have time for this. All right, guys, I'm going to have to push part 2. We're going to have to do this in 2 parts. As you guys know, I'm recording from a hotspot, and I can't upload longer videos right now while I get settled in my new studio. So this is the end of part 1. Trust me when I say, now that we have their response, these exhibits are going to blow you away. We've got Greg Woodnick at Woodnick Law and Isabel absolutely laying the smackdown. All of that is going to be shown here. Some of the absolutely wild emails and their emails to Amazon, the emails that Jane Doe sent to Clayton. There's new information there. I'm going to have all that and more in the next video. Stick around. That's coming up right after this.